almost feel like with today's topic that I should start singing that Beauty and the Beast song about the books. Except I don't really know the lyrics. I'm such a fail when it comes to being a book nerd. Hi everybody, Carla here, and I know I said last time that I was going to talk about the latest book in the Trials of Apollo series, which is called The Dark Prophecy. I tried, I haven't finished yet. I'm almost there. I only have a few chapters to go. Like, I'm already in the middle of the big battle, but I haven't yet finished it, so I decided I'm going to postpone that. If nothing huge comes up next week, then I will probably be talking about that book next week. But for the moment, I am actually still in a book mood. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before in this vlog, but I am an aspiring writer. I aspire to write books and have them published. Fiction mainly. I have several ideas. My main problem is that my writing discipline is like negative 723. I have no discipline when it comes to writing. I am a weird type of writer that just sort of sits down and writes when the inspiration flows. And if you've ever read any of my fanfiction, you probably know what a pain that is. But I'm a writer. I like to write, and I aspire to someday, hopefully before I turn 80, have something published. And I'm happy this week. It's been a good week because I actually started writing a new novel, which is something that I hadn't done in a long time. I haven't written all that much. I'm about 1.5 chapters in or something. It's like 6,000 words so far. But I'm glad that I'm writing something, and so I decided I'm going to talk about books today in general. So what I'm gonna do is what I generally always do when it comes to general topics that I'm talking about. I'm just going to go down a questionnaire that I found on Tumblr for like a 30-day challenge or something. And it's all about books. So please, after you watch this video, please do comment below and talk to me about your favorite books. I'm always looking for recommendations, even though my to-read list is like a kilometer long. But I'm always looking for recs from people, especially if they share my interests when it comes to books. As usual, you know that I love my sci-fi, I love my fantasy, I love my YA, so that's mostly what you're going to see here. I do sometimes also like nonfiction, especially when it's about science. Like, I think my favorite is, there's a book by Gene Kranz called Failure is Not an Option, and it's all about NASA and NASA mission control and everything, and their missions to space. It especially focuses a lot on the Apollo 13 mission and how they got back those astronauts from what was a disaster in space. So I do read nonfiction. I do have a few favorites. I'm always looking for more, especially if they're related to science. So hey, if you have some favorites regarding that, also be sure to let me know in a comment. I'm always glad to get recommendations for books because I love reading. I'm basically always reading. So let's have at it. I'm gonna start with the questions now, so I'm just gonna go right into it. And number 1 is best book you read last year. So I looked at my list of books I read last year. It wasn't many. I've been really busy, so I haven't really been reading as much as I used to lately in the past few years. But I think for last year, my favorite was either between Lost Stars by Claudia Gray or Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. I think I'll go with Lost Stars. I've already talked about this book in this vlog, so go watch that video if you haven't watched it. I basically pour out all my feelings about Lost Stars in that book, and there are a lot of feelings, let me tell you. So I'm not gonna go into it here. I'm just gonna say, yeah, probably Lost Stars was my favorite book that I read last year. Number 2, a book that you've read more than 3 times. Well, apart from Little Women, which I have mentioned that I read at least once a year and I have read over 40 times in my lifetime. Apart from Little Women though, it's Probably one of the Harry Potter books. I think Prisoner of Azkaban and Order of the Phoenix I've read about 3 times each. The rest of them I've read twice at least, except for Chamber of Secrets, which I only read once. But yeah, I tend to read the Harry Potter books more often, especially back when they were released, because I would get them in the mail, read them in like 3 days, and then I couldn't remember anything. So I had to go back and reread them just to go slower about it. So yeah, usually one of those. Number 3, favorite book series. Well, that's easy. Anything Camp Half-Blood by Rick Riordan. That takes into account the Percy Jackson series, the Heroes of Olympus series, and now the Trials of Apollo series, and even Magnus Chase, which is kind of, sort of, maybe interconnected a little bit. I love all the mythology series by Rick Riordan, and Camp Half-Blood is such an amazing place, and the characters are so amazing that I love that series. Every time a new book by Rick Riordan is released, it just catapults to the top of my to-read list automatically, because I can't just wait until I get to it. I have to read it at that moment. So, number 4, favorite book from your favorite series. And okay, I'm gonna cheat on this one a little bit, because I don't have one favorite book out of the whole thing. I tend to have one favorite book per series, per sub-series, I guess. So in the Percy Jackson series, that would be the Titan's Curse, because I love it because it introduced so many new characters that I loved and that have become so important to the rest of the series. So Titan's Curse for sure. And for Heroes of Olympus, it will probably be House of Hades. I adore that book. I think that book is amazing in terms of plot, in terms of character development, in terms of representation. It's so great. I love that book. If I had to pick one book that I love above all the others in all the other series, without taking nostalgia into account, it would probably be House of Hades. But then the nostalgia factor hits with Titan's Curse, so it's a toss-up. About Trials of Apollo, it's a bit too early to tell, I think. I'm enjoying it so far. The first 2 books have been great, or first one and a 38 chapter book or something, because that's where I am right now. I'm still not done with the Dark Prophecy, so I can't really comment on that, but I'm liking it. I'm just going to wait until the whole thing is done to actually pick a favorite, I think. Number 5, a book that makes you happy. The Book Thief. Yes, it's a Holocaust story. I know, I'm weird. That's a thing. Sorry. Number 6, a book that makes you sad. Little Women. Spoiler alert, Beth dies. It hurts you guys. Little Women has the distinction of being one of the few books that has made me cry, which basically never happens. And it's basically the only book that has made me cry out of sadness, because some others have made me cry for happiness. I cried out of sadness when Beth dies. It's so freaking sad, you guys. Never get over it. Number 7. Most underrated book. I think you mean most underrated series? Artemis Fowl. It's such a fun series. It's so much fun. And there's a movie adaptation hopefully coming soon, which will be directed by Kenneth Branagh. So everybody, please read this series. It's so great. Number 8. Most overrated book. I would have to say The Fault in Our Stars. I mean, it was okay. It was fun at times. It was sweet at times. It was sad at times. It was not particularly groundbreaking like some people made it out to be. So yeah, it's a good book, but it's nothing out of this world, you know? Number 9. A book that you thought you wouldn't like, but then ended up loving. I would have to say the Delirium series from Lauren Oliver, mainly because I read it really soon after I read Matched. And I hated Matched. They had similar themes, so I thought I would hate Delirium too. But the Delirium series was actually quite entertaining and not as formulaic. Of course, it had some formulaic bits, but it was much more entertaining than Matched, so I was surprised by that. Number 10. Favorite classic book. Little Women. Duh. But apart from that, I'm not entirely sure, like, what counts as a classic. I like Don Quixote, even though I've only read it once. The Iliad and the Odyssey they're still informing my book choices to this day, really. I've read everything Sherlock Holmes. The Three Musketeers are always fun. Verne's From the Earth to the Moon basically was a turning point in my childhood, so any of those, I really don't have a favorite. I just love all of them. Number 11, a book you hated. Refer to the aforementioned Matched. Also, Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol. I wrote a long and detailed review of that book, specifying why I hated it so much on my Goodreads account, which you can find at goodreads.com/lotoazul, Lotoazul. It was really long and really detailed, so I won't repeat it here, but needless to say, I purchased the following book in the Dan Brown series, which was Inferno, like 3 years ago. And I have yet to start reading it because The Lost Symbol was just that bad. Oh my god, that book just made me so angry, honestly. Also, there's another one that's basically become the definition of childhood trauma for me is The Old Man and the Sea. Guys, it's an old man who hooks a giant fish, and basically nothing happens for like 3/4 of the book. I want to shoot myself just remembering that torture. That book was awful. I never want to read it again. I had to read it for school, and it was like, pff, seriously, I just hated it so much. Number 12 is a book that you used to love, but you don't love anymore. I used to buy a lot of TV show books when I was younger, like X-Files, CSI Miami. I don't even like CSI Miami anymore. So yeah, that should say something. But even the X-Files ones, I don't read them anymore. I don't really care for any of those. The ones that I still do like, though, is that there's a Veronica Mars book series that's happening. I have both books that they have released so far, and they're really great. So that one I really like. But the general TV show ones before, like X-Files and CSI and stuff, I don't care about those anymore. Number 13, your favorite writer. I struggle with this because it changes very often, but I would have to say that my favorite writer is Jim Butcher. He's the writer of the Dresden Files. He also has another series called the Codex Alera series. I haven't read that one, but I love the Dresden Files to death. His style is just so funny, so down to earth. It feels like the characters are just speaking to me, like they're friends of mine, and it's really cool. It's not like heavy prose or anything. It's really fast, definitely page turners. I really love it. He's my favorite author. Number 14, favorite book of your favorite writer. Well, it's definitely in the Dresden Files series because that's the one I have read. It used to be White Knight, but after the latest book came out, which was Skin Game, that changed, and Skin Game is my favorite now. Partly because I'm a hopeless shipper, but mostly because lightsaber wielding Knights of the Cross. And if you haven't read the Dresden Files, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but I bet now you want to read it. Ha! 15. Favorite male character. Well, I tend to have a lot of favorite male characters because for some reason my favorite characters always end up being male. I tend to like male characters more than female, not for any reason in particular other than I feel that I identify more with them for some weird reason. I don't know, I'm strange. That's a thing. And some of them I even fall in love with. Like, I have so many fictional boyfriends, you guys. But yeah, I have a lot of favorite male characters, so it's hard to pick just one. But I would have to say Ron Weasley from the Harry Potter series, because honestly, Ron is basically like my twin in so many aspects, and I relate to him a lot. I really love Ron. So yeah, if I have to pick one, it would probably be him. Number 16, favorite female character, and that's absolutely, positively, without a doubt, Jo March. For all the reasons I have espoused in previous videos, so please go check those out. I adore Jo March. She's my idol from childhood, and I aspire to be like her when I grow up. Number 17. Favorite quote from your favorite book. It's a quote from Little Women, of course. And I'm just gonna read it because I can't recite it, but I'm just gonna read it in my head. Wouldn't it be fun if all the castles in the air which we make could come true and we could live in them? I love this quote because it speaks to the idea of having dreams and working to make those dreams a reality. Especially when you're a kid, that means a lot. So that quote stuck with me for years, and it leads to a conversation of all the characters sort of explaining what their castles in the air are, and I felt like I learned a lot about them in one conversation, so I like it also because of that, but mostly because it tells me, hey, it's okay to have dreams, and it's okay to work for those dreams until you get them. So yeah. Number 18, a book that disappointed you. I would refer you to the aforementioned Lost Symbol, but also The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold, which it was an interesting premise to begin with. I thought the idea of it was good, but then in the end I just found it to be so awkwardly executed that I was very disappointed by it. Number 19, favorite book turned into a movie. Probably the entire Harry Potter series, because come on. And The Hunger Games, because all of those were excellent film adaptations. I loved them so much. I was really into the movies as well. I have all of them on DVD for both Harry Potter and The Hunger Games, because those are pretty much the best movie adaptations we've seen of YA stuff, so very important to me. Number 20, favorite romance book. I don't often read pure romance, like it's mostly like YA that has romance, or fantasy that has romance, or sci-fi that has romance, but I don't usually buy books that are just straight through romance. I really love The Road to Avalon by Joanne Wolfe. I've mentioned before I am a fan of the Arthurian myth, so I like that different take that she had on it, really. Number 21, favorite book from your childhood. Little Women, duh. But also, as I mentioned before, there's plenty of others that I read, like Sherlock Holmes, The Three Musketeers, Robin Hood, The Iliad and the Odyssey, King Solomon's Mines I loved, Journey to the Center of the Earth, From the Earth to the Moon, and Frank's Diary, and also The Acts of King Arthur and His Noble Knights I really enjoyed. Like, those were sort of the books that shaped my childhood, really, and that made me start on this path of being a book reader. 22, favorite book you own. Little Women, duh. These questions are so silly. And I just want to add, did I ever mention that I own like 3 copies of Little Women, and that I have to like physically restrain myself from buying another copy every time I go to a bookstore or a book fair? The covers are just so pretty, I can't help myself. It's a sickness, you guys. 23, a book you wanted to read for a long time but still haven't. My to-read list is like long as fuck. So I have many books that I own, like I purchased them but I haven't gotten to them yet. Most recently I purchased Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett, which I had been looking for a long time. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, because that movie is amazing and I can't wait to read the book, but I haven't gotten to them just yet. Number 24, a book that you wish more people would have read. Well, refer to the aforementioned Artemis Fowl series, but also the sequels to Little Women, Little Men and Joe's Boys, because I feel like everybody has at least heard of Little Women, but very few people I know are even aware that the book had sequels. For shame, guys, for shame. They're so good as well. Go and read them. Number 25, a character who you can relate to the most. See my previous answers about Joe March and Ron Weasley. If Joe March and Ron Weasley had a kid, it would probably be me. I feel that way. Maybe with a little Hermione Granger thrown in. But basically, those two. Number 26, a book that changed your opinion about something. Well, this doesn't usually happen, but I remember there's a series of books by Spanish author J.J. Benitez, and the series is called Caballo de Troya, which means Trojan horse in English, and it challenged a lot of my religious beliefs. It's a story about the US Air Force or whatever it was. They create this time machine, basically, and there's this US major who gets assigned to the first mission with the time machine. Basically, they take that time machine and they travel back to the time of Jesus, and they have to sort of like go undercover as followers of Jesus. And it's very interesting. You get a very different take on Jesus and what he said and what he did and who the people around him were. And I mean, granted, it's science fiction, none of it actually happened, but reading it was the first time I can actually remember thinking, maybe I should try to find some sort of logic in religion and mythology and fantasy and the like. So it's not like, oh, just take it on faith. Things have to make sense too. And reading this book was sort of the first time I remember thinking that. So yeah, I would count that one as changing an opinion, I guess. 27. The most surprising plot twist or ending? Well, I'm pretty sure the Red Wedding is still like one of the most amazing twists ever written. And I loved it in the book, and I read it before I watched the show, and it was just so fun to see people like freaking out about it when it happened on the show, because I already knew it was coming. But in the book, it was like freaking amazing. But also, nothing can top the polka-loving zombie T-Rex in the Dresden Files. And now you want to read it even more, I'm sure. Number 28. Favorite title. I love the Heroes of Olympus book titles because they all sound so damn heroic, pun intended. But also the Dresden Files have a really cool naming scheme. I think my favorite will always be Deadbeat because polka-loving zombie T-Rex. How could it get any better than that? Number 29. A book everyone hated that you loved. People love to hate on the last book of the Divergent series, but I actually quite liked it, and I'm talking about Insurgent, by the way. I even liked the ending. In fact, if it hadn't ended the way it ended, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. And that's pretty much all I'm gonna say before I'm buried in an avalanche of flames, because I know that's coming. And last but not least, number 30. Your favorite book of all time. Little Women. Duh. Actually, I wanted to show you guys. This is actually the first copy of Little Women that I got. You see it's in Spanish. I have since purchased copies in English as well. But I always find it funny because it's not like that old. I'm what, 32? I read this book for the first time when I was like 9, so it might be what, almost 20 years old, I guess. But it looks like something that was like preserved in a monastery for centuries. It's like really old. It's all, yellowed and delicate, and I'm half afraid that if I try to read from this copy again, it will fall apart. Like, you see here, it's like taped up because I've read it so much. So yeah, just wanted to show it to you guys that this is how much I have read this book. I don't read this one anymore. I read it in English nowadays, but it's still a fun thing to like go back and look at it now because it looks so much older than it actually is, and it's because I've read it like 100 times. Not 100, like 40, but still. So yeah, that's my entry about books. Leave a comment and let me know what you think of these answers. Do you like the books that I mentioned? Have you read them? Are there any books that you think I might like based on these answers that I've given? Let me know. I'm always looking for recommendations, like I said at the beginning, so all of that is welcome. Again, unless something huge comes up, I will probably be talking about The Dark Prophecy next week, so if you're a fan of the Percy Jackson, Heroes of Olympus, Heroes of Apollo, Camp Half-Blood series, stay tuned for that. In the meantime, you can find me on social media. I am on Twitter and Instagram at girlsareweird with underscores between the words, and I am on Tumblr at girlsareweird with hyphens between the words. Also, look me up on Goodreads. My username is Loto Azul, that's LOTOAZUL, so be sure to look me up. Add me as a friend. I'm always looking for book reader friends because I don't have enough of those in real life. You can also find a Facebook page for this vlog at facebook.com/FreakingNarnia. And as always, remember to visit my main webpage at FreakingNarnia.com. All my videos are up there in case you're missing something and want to catch up. Also be sure to visit my Redbubble store where I make art from my favorite quotes from my favorite fandoms, including books, and then you can use that art to print on merchandise such as t-shirts, coffee cups, computer covers, all sorts of cool stuff out there, so be sure to visit and maybe purchase something if you're in the mood. That's always welcome. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like my stuff, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always happy to see people liking and sharing and subscribing and commenting, because I love talking to you guys about this fandom stuff. And I think that's about it from me today. I will see you guys next week with another video from all the way in freaking Narnia. And to all the youth out there, please, for the love of God, read, pick up a book. It's so much cooler than people make it sound, and it will make your life better, so keep that in mind. Bye! I'm such a fail when it comes to being a Disney geek. If nothing else comes up next, go watch that video. If you don't know Trial of Apollo, and I have yet to start reading, mostly because lightsaber wielding, the polka loving T-Rex